Months after the Hecatomachy, the name given to the war between the gods of the underworld against Breezy and the protectors of the magic dropper, Jesus of Nazareth was born. The fates confirmed to Breezy without a doubt that this little baby was the awaited Messiah. Child's destiny, unseen by deities or mortals. When they went to dictate his fate, it was so simple and yet so complicated that they knew at least that the child was a special messenger of the Most High, and they arrived at the palace of Thrace with great fanfare. Breezy and Prometheus, mounted on the backs of the magical horses Xanthus and Balius, and guarded by the shape-shifting cat Cyprus, set off to see the newborn. The Palestinian city of Bethlehem, where the baby Jesus was born, is located south of the bustling Jerusalem, nestled in the Judean mountains and under Roman rule during the illustrious reign of Emperor Caesar Augustus. When Breezy and Prometheus arrived to see the baby, he was sleeping in a humble manger. The family had settled in a small stable alongside some domestic animals. Nothing seemed remarkable in the rustic place, except for the arrival of 3 wise men dressed in the Persian style, who had come from the east guided by a bright star, to see the King of the Jews. Among the newcomers, Breezy immediately recognized the magician Merlot, whom she had encountered in different and significant settings throughout human history, without knowing who this humble, affectionate, and innovative sage truly was. With so much knowledge about the course of religions and the behavior of deities and human beings alike, after the picturesque magicians presented some gifts to the humble family as a sign of veneration and respect, Breezy met with Merlot, now known as the magician Melchior, who, taking advantage of the chance encounter, offered Breezy insightful predictions of future events. Melchior spoke of the problem with the gods of the underworld. Breezy didn't know how the news had reached him, but he knew the facts intimately and foresaw the consequences this would have for Zeus, who was entrenched in power. He didn't fail to mention Hecate, with whom he shared a complicated yet respectful friendship, discussing her fateful ambition and its consequences, which might perhaps serve as a lesson for her. By natural law, he emphasized, when misfortune strikes, the most hidden senses are awakened. Let us hope it is for the better. He commented on the ego of many of the Olympian gods, elevated above intelligence. He spoke of religion and its advantages for human beings in trying to answer the enigmas of existence, seeking to give meaning to life. He had flattering words for the development of science and philosophy, although he expressed that the day would come when those same scientists, as part of their research, would become interested in discovering the origin of the divine spark that resides in the spirit, trying to find answers to those fundamental mysteries so deeply rooted in human nature since the very dawn of humanity. Before saying goodbye, he spoke to her about the arrogance, greed, intolerance, and ignorance of many human beings, adding that virtuous men were those who knew how to achieve their goals without trampling on others, bringing them to their side with understanding, tolerance, and solidarity to achieve a common objective. Before departing with his counterparts back to the east, already mounted on his sturdy camel, addressing Breezy one last time, these were the words of the wizard Merlot. "My dear Breezy, I greatly respect your help to humans in their development, for the worst thing about ignorance is that as it persists, it gains confidence." And already in motion, he raised his arm in farewell. Breezy followed in the footsteps of the little Jesus, who was a somewhat absent-minded child but endowed with great simplicity and humility. He grew up surrounded by the love of his parents and siblings. As the years passed, he developed great compassion, intelligence, and incredible intuition and independence. The boy was also so generous that it could be said he owned nothing. Many of the things Breezy brought him to help him, he gave away to his siblings or distributed among the neighbors with the utmost simplicity. He had no personal ambitions and did not consider himself better than others, much less did he boast of his intelligence. It could be said that the child was a model of virtue. Breezy's pets became so fond of the young Jesus that the shape-shifting cat Cypress would wander around protecting him throughout the dusty town. As only a very few mortals had done, she conversed with the gifted beetle Kepri, using her strange way of communicating. Like the wonderful dropperfly Malachi the Jew, she did not leave Nazareth so as not to be far from Jesus. The boy began his studies at the so-called House of the Book, where he learned to read the sacred texts in Hebrew. Before the age of 12, he had already graduated from the House of Interpretation, where he studied the basic elements of Jewish law and how to interpret it. Very soon he began to debate profound topics, to the astonishment of all who listened to him. Even so, his genius and wisdom went unnoticed beyond that humble town. Eager to broaden his horizons, Jesus asked Breezy to take her to experience other cultures, to pursue his personal quest for knowledge and drink from the wellsprings of wisdom, as Pythagoras had done before him. It all began with quick trips to and from nearby regions, riding on the backs of the magical horses Xanthus and Balius, and accompanied by the protective cat Cypress. But little by little, young Jesus began to associate with Egyptian sages, Vedic rishis, Druid priests, Buddhist and Tibetan monks, and priests and prophets from other Eastern cultures, disappearing among them for months at a time. With astonishing ease, he began to speak different languages, often in a cryptic manner. About 2 years after the birth of Jesus of Nazareth, the unmistakable fates contacted Breezy again, this time at their headquarters in the city of Rome, which had become the bustling Academy of Rome, to reveal to her the destiny of Apollonius, another child born into a respected and wealthy Greek family in Tyana, an ancient city in Anatolia, for whom they foretold a passionate and long life. Breezy, as he did with all the children whose remarkable destinies the fates revealed to him for the benefit of humanity, met them at their birth, and then became involved with them in one way or another. There were no rules, as the life of every human being was different, influenced by their culture, social class, religion, and personality. Born into a wealthy family, young Apollonius soon proved to be a child prodigy. His father, admiring his talents, ensured he received the best education. Following the example of his admired Pythagoras, whose doctrines he had embraced, Apollonius began to demonstrate extrasensory powers, performing miracles and healing the sick. The young man subsisted only on legumes, abstained from wine and women, and liked to walk barefoot, clad in a white tunic. At the age of 20, he lost his father and gave away his considerable inheritance, then practiced asceticism to such an extreme that he remained silent for 5 years. As he had said, he needed to remain silent to grow inwardly. Apollonius of Tyana, like the mystic Pythagoras before him, began traveling through different Greek cities, appearing as a teacher of humankind, visiting temples, correcting customs, and preaching reforms. His lifestyle and his sententious and enigmatic language made such an impression that he was soon surrounded by numerous disciples. Also, like the great Pythagoras, he was interested in the wonderful dropperflies of all the regions he visited, whom he protected, and with whom he held cordial and entertaining debates. Very soon he began playing drop with his disciples and proclaiming its many benefits for mental development. Breezy and Apollonius of Tyana began to meet in different settings across a vast eastern region with common goals, and one day, Breezy made it possible for Apollonius to meet Jesus of Nazareth. A mutual respect immediately arose between Jesus and Apollonius, as if they had known each other before, but only Breezy noticed the unique situation. They debated profound and diverse topics until late into the night, emphasizing the power of consciousness as the basis of being, or gnosis, the secret mysticism of salvation. At their farewell, they embraced with a filial love. Though it was more than filial, it was sublime, each going in search of their predetermined destiny.